Good evening, fellow gardeners, and thank you so much for joining me. I'm your host, Tanisha Spain, and we're doing a super shelter-in-place version of Mid-American Gardener. I hope you all just enjoyed the show that you watched on TV, and now we're going to have some discussion online. So this is a big experiment right now. We're just going to give this a shot. We've brought in one of our regular panelists to take some of your questions and share a little bit about what she's been doing in her yard lately. So let's welcome Jen Nelson to the party. We've been talking a lot off and on about identifying different plants in the yard that we've been finding and what you've planted out. And so welcome, Jen.
Hi.
Hello, hello. So before we jump right in, let's talk a little bit about what you've been up to since you guys have been sheltering in place at your place.
Oh, in the garden, we've started seeds inside. We've also started a couple things outside. We did our lettuce last week, which is growing already, lettuce and spinach. And we put out our broccoli transplants that we bought. We also planted peas outside. Those haven't sprouted yet. What else have we done? Just some general cleanup. We did some dividing perennials outside. We planted pansies. Yeah, that's basically in a nutshell so far.
Pretty much the same here. We did, I put some peas out seed, and then I've got some cauliflower and broccoli that need to go out. I was going to do it yesterday because you sort of inspired me, but the day just got away from me. And now I guess I'm kind of glad I didn't because of the cold snap. So what else have we done? Just like same, cleaning up the beds and getting all the weeds and the old grasses. Although you're the perfect person to ask about this. We've got several great big things of ornamental grasses. I don't know which ones. I'm not terrible. They were here when we moved in, but when can we start dividing those?
Oh, I would do it now before they start really growing very much. Have you seen any growth on them at all?
No, I keep checking for green. Still haven't seen anything. Now, I haven't like parted it and looked down in there, but from the outside, I'm still not seeing any new growth yet.
I would maybe wait till you just start to see some growth so you know that what you're dividing is alive.
Okay.
But then don't wait until it's, a foot tall. Do it when it's manageable size.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on the type, a lot of times they are really hard to dig up. I have been known to get the Sawzall out of the garage and carve it out like an electric knife. So that was a lot easier on our backs and on shovel handles.
Yeah, I bet. So if you have just joined us or watching, please ask some questions or give us some comments in the comments section. You've got Jen on the line and she can answer those questions for you. So we do have an actual email question. I guess we can start with that. Let me put my glasses on so I can read it. This is a Facebook question that came in and it's about seed potatoes. And the question is, every year we grow potatoes, usually from seed. This year we have an abundance of leftover potatoes. Is there an advantage to planting the whole potato, or is it better to cut chunks off with several sets of eyes on them? This is DWK in Altamont. So what is your take there?
Oh, I have done what they're talking about, using leftover potatoes, things that are sprouting in the kitchen. I've bought seed potatoes as well. It just kind of depends. Just kind of depends on what my time and effort level is that particular year. But I mean, I've always been taught that you should not plant the potatoes out of your kitchen because there's a chance that they could have diseases on it. And you may just be creating a giant problem in your garden where when you're buying seed potatoes, you know that they're generally certified to be seed potatoes, that they aren't carrying disease on them. But I've also, we were chatting before the show, I have an aunt that has done that, planting the sprouting potatoes out of the kitchen for years and not had a problem with
Really?
it. So, considering that you're on lockdown, supposed to be staying at home, and you've got sprouting potatoes, why not try it?
Why not give it a shot? What can go wrong, right?
I think this is the year for a lot of new gardeners. A lot of new gardeners will be born in the pandemic.
Yes, we're going to bring them into our cult.
I feel like I have these apocalyptic skills that are being appreciated finally.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So we both talked about what we're planting and what we're growing. We had another question come in, and I kind of wanted to talk about this too, but someone asked what are nurseries going to be doing with COVID-19 and if they're going to be able to sell. So I can say here, Danville Gardens is the staple here. They're taking online orders and allowing people to pick up merchandise there. What's been your experience at the nurseries?
I have heard, we made a trip to Prairie Gardens, or I should say my husband did, before the big stay-at-home order went into effect. But I've heard that they shut down for a period and now they've reopened with an option for curbside service if you call ahead and order. I've also heard that Country Arbors has set up an outside cashier, so everything's outside. But I've also been telling people that have asked, that have said, oh, I just can't wait to get out to the garden center and shop for plants. I told them, it's really not the time to go wandering around the garden center for hours. Unfortunately, we have to think about the people that are working there, and we don't, it's like the people that are going to the grocery store with their entire family and wandering around. It's just not the time for it. So we really,
as much as we want to,
Right. We all want to, but if a lot of places are posting their inventory online and you can go on and make a list of your wish list and see what you can purchase. I know it's not the same as going and touching everything, but and looking at everything, but that's just, at least we can buy those things.
Yeah, and it'll have to do for now.
Yeah, really. I think we all need to stay safe.
Hi, Andrew. We have a comment from Geraldine on Facebook. It says that the Sawzall is her favorite garden tool. Let's see, Haven. She's taken down a small tree with it. So you are not alone.
Someone else commandeering her husband's tools. Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. So it's early, it's what, April 9th. We've had a nice couple days of warm weather, which means people are itching to get outside, itching to get in the garden, and maybe putting some things out too soon. So do you want to tell us first, okay, which ones are okay to go out right now, and then which ones need to wait until later? How do you want to break this down? Because we want people to be successful on their inaugural voyage. Yes,
I've heard from friends that pretty much everything is available at the garden centers right now. And an old, some old advice I got from a friend years ago was plant early, plant often. Because if you put some of this stuff out, like the warm weather crops, like tomatoes and green beans and squash and peppers, things that like hot weather, they just can't take the cool snap. Like tonight, it's going to get down to 32 near my house, but cool season things like lettuce and broccoli and your cauliflower and those types of things, those can take a little light frost.
And they'll bounce back.
They should, yeah. If someone was asking me today about should I cover all my broccoli that I just put out, or my lettuce, or my radishes that are coming up, no.
Yeah.
I doubt you'd be able to hold it down. It was so windy around here today.
Yeah, that's true. And the rain was coming down pretty heavy last night too. I don't know if everybody got rain, but it was a pretty big storm that covered a good chunk of our area. So, okay. All right. So what else? What else do you, what's some good advice for folks this time of year? What can we be doing, clean up, that kind of thing? What advice do you have?
Just pick a spot and start the cleanup. I mean, you don't need to get too terribly aggressive, but you can start removing some of the leaves. I wouldn't necessarily take all of the mulch back from things just yet, but you can certainly anyway, you promised me you'd be quiet, but I guess he's quiet.
That's, yeah. He technically is still holding up his end of the bargain.
Well, some of the things that are just kind of iffy right now is how aggressive I would be. Things like roses, like I have a bunch of knockout roses, and they are starting to show signs of life. So if you can cut out things that are clearly dead, there's no problem with that.
Okay, okay. Bulbs, can we be putting our bulbs in?
Like our summer bulbs, our lilies and stuff.
Mhm.
My ground's really too wet. What's it like at your house?
Okay,
I think if the ground wasn't as soggy as it is, that if you could work it without compacting everything and making a bigger mess, then
yeah,
it'd be okay.
yeah. Okay. I'm checking Facebook now to see if we've got any. Oh, so Larry says you have an extra hand.
Yes.
So if you're watching at home, we would love to have your questions. You've got Jennifer on the line to answer your burning questions.
Oh, there's a question on pruning trees.
Go ahead. Let's see. Kim. Okay, Kim wants to know, is it a bad idea to prune trees now? And if so, why?
Off the top of my head, I know there are some trees that will kind of start to leak a lot of sap if you cut them now. I think it's oaks that you don't want to do in the spring because you can attract some pests that way. But don't quote me on that. But do a search on that one. But you're not going to kill the tree, even a fruit tree. You should have done that stuff earlier.
Speaking of fruit trees, I've got an apple and a pear tree in my yard. Do you deal much with fruit trees? Do you have any?
We have some. We actually have to replace a bunch because with all the rain that we had last spring, we lost our apple trees. We discovered that part of our yard it stayed swampy for over a month, and that just smothered the roots. They came out and they were blooming so beautifully last spring, and then they all just wilted and died.
Oh, so when did you treat yours? Do you spray your fruit trees?
I have not been very diligent about it. I'll be totally honest. But one of the trees that we had that we had beautiful apples and never really sprayed the variety is Liberty, and it was bred to be resistant to just about every known apple disease. But we always had really good luck with that one, and Sundance was the other one.
Okay,
We're looking to replace them now this year, and maybe even relocate them because that particular area, it's not always so wet, and I don't know if last year is going to be typical moving forward.
We have, like I said, a couple of trees in the back, and the apples, I don't know what the varieties are because they were here when we moved in, but they're always misshapen. And there's always like a little black hole, at least one or two, where I didn't catch it in time. And I forget what the insect is.
Cobbling moth?
I think so. I think Jim Schuster, I remember him taking a look and telling me. So we've sprayed, we've not sprayed. I haven't really seen a difference either way. So I didn't know if you had a different experience. Okay.
I haven't had problems with that. And we also have some peach trees and apricots, and we probably get apricots every 4th year because they're really early flowerers. And so if we get a later frost, that typically comes right when the flowers are perfectly blooming.
Yeah. Let's see. Connie from Facebook says it's a good time to do some seed planting with kids who are at home. That is very true. And I just have been sort of making that part of our day, making that part of, outdoor school. We've had to get creative here. So that's part of it. Yeah.
My son's been doing a lot of seeds. I think some things were clicking in his head that, you mean I can plant all this and I can grow it outside?
And what will come of it? And I like to involve them in the whole process. Of course, my 12-year-old is kind of getting too cool for school, but the 4-year-old still enjoys it. And do you set your house plants outside in the summer too, or is this just flowers for you?
No, I set my house plants outside too.
You do?
Yeah, I put most of them on a north-facing porch that has some shade, but then the ones that can handle full sun will go outside on the south side of the house. Things like cactus, some of the stuff that really likes a brighter light. But then I try to kind of ease the ones that are going to go in full sun. I kind of ease them into it because otherwise you can get sunburn, even on plants that are usually okay in full sun.
Okay, talk about that a little bit. What are some good steps to do that?
Bring them outside and put them in a shady location at first and let them, give them some time to adapt. Because the leaves that are growing indoors in the winter tend to be thinner because they're trying to capture more of the light. And they're not accustomed to being outside. So if they go right in the full sun, they're going to get crispy and burn. You're going to kill the plant. I've sunburned quite a few of them in my time, but just kind of leave them out in the shade, partial shade for a while, and then
Like over a process of a couple days, or
I would say even like a week or more.
a week? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sort of like hardening off, but the opposite.
Like hardening off, but the opposite. Yeah, and just keep an eye on them. And even the wind can be a detriment. Plants coming from inside to outside because they're just not used to it. So you have to kind of build them up, and you may notice some leaf loss if things get sunburned. Kind of the same thing that happens when you bring stuff in, because a lot of my plants will lose a few leaves as you bring them in because the plant's adjusting to lower light levels inside. Even if you have good light inside, it's never a match for outside.
No way. Not the same as the summer sun. Okay, we have another question from Gail. She wants to know what she can do about an area of her yard that does stay wet longer than normal. Should she add more dirt, trees with deeper roots? What's your suggestion?
Well, if that's just kind of the standard, I would look at plants that can tolerate or even prefer having wet feet.
Okay.
If you look at rain gardening is one topic that University of Wisconsin has a lot of good resources and plant lists on rain gardening. And so those are all plants that can tolerate being wet. There was a time when some towns would actually give you some break on your taxes or water bill or something for having a rain garden to try to lessen the burden on the storm drainage system. I don't know if that's the thing anymore, but it was at one time.
Okay, so no amendments, no building it up, or do you think?
You can try. I mean, we tried it in our own yard and it didn't work like long period of time, but building up a berm, you have to build it up quite a bit because you know that when you build up anything, it's going to settle over time. So even some parts of our yard where it looked like this big, nice little berm when we were done with it, it's almost even with the rest of the ground 5 years later. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That settled a lot.
It was like a little bunny slope at first, and now I was looking at it the other day. I'm like, this isn't much of a berm anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of it's just washing away and how much of it's settling.
True. Okay, we have another question. Maggie wants to know if you have any tips on growing Brussels sprouts. She says, I am never successful. They're always so tiny or it gets too hot. I have started some seeds. When is the best time to plant them?
I've always put out starts in the spring and I've never gotten anything harvestable until the fall. And I will, as they start growing up, kind of remove the bottom leaves, and that tends to encourage the sprouts to form. But I've never had good luck getting anything harvestable in the spring. It always does get too hot, but the plants just kind of chug along, and then in the fall I've had really good luck. And I think they're better tasting in the fall anyway because you don't have that hot weather.
Okay, and then when should she take her starts outside?
Which kind of starts for her?
The Brussels sprouts. Did you say when to take them out?
In the garden in the spring.
In the spring, okay. After the threat of frost.
They're related to broccoli, so they can go out now.
Okay. All right, let's see. We have another one. Linda Lee says, how do you get rid of wild onion / garlic?
Oh, that's a tough one.
That is a tough one.
There's a lot of pulling and digging in your feet.
And don't snap it off. So that one just sounds like a lot of manual labor, right?
Probably, unless she wants to do some sort of massive killing off of a section. She could do like Roundup or black plastic and kind of cook it to death.
Yeah. Okay. Might as well just leave it alone. Let's see. We don't have any other questions right now. So what else? I'm trying to think of some other sort of obstacles that people face, when starting their seeds. I'm a seed person. I know a lot of people prefer to get plants from the nursery. Do you have a preference?
I've done both. Sometimes in the interest of just busyness and time, getting plants from the nursery is a little bit more of a sure bet than being on myself to be diligent about watering and doing things when they need to be done. I'll be totally honest. I noticed today I've got a flat of zinnias that just came up and they really started using up the water, and I about lost some of them because they were getting a little too dry.
Oh, gotcha. And you have
I'm at home all the time, right? We're
yeah.
at home order, so.
Are yours in a greenhouse or in the house? Where do you have your starts?
They're in
or everywhere.
they're in the house on a little $25 greenhouse.
Folding table?
No, like it's like a little greenhouse with about 4 shelves, and it has a zipper.
Oh yeah.
At the top.
Everybody's been using those this year. You like it?
I like it. I've had it this is like the 3rd or 4th year we've used it. It comes apart and I just put it in a bin and put it in storage over the winter, and it fits right. It's right in the corner of our kitchen right now, and I've got lights hanging on the shelves to light the shelf below it. It's nice and compact, and the fact that I can store it away is great.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll have to look into those. I've seen several people, so a lot of my friends have started using those just because of the space saving, and you can still create that sort of greenhouse atmosphere wherever.
And they're good. Some friends of mine have used them for hardening the seedlings off, because you can the front, you can zip it all down if you wanted frost protection, or you can roll up the front. I have the front of mine rolled up just so I don't forget to check on stuff. And but you could take that whole thing outside and potentially harden your seedlings off, like on a porch or what have you.
A good idea. Okay, let's see. Lily says, I've heard red pepper flakes, but how is the best way to keep squirrels out of your herbs?
I've heard of red pepper flakes too for bird seed. I imagine it would work for squirrel or for herbs as well. I don't know any magical secrets for that one.
Yeah. Squirrels are just they're cute, but they get into everything.
And once they start on something, it's really hard to sort of distract them from it. And they tend to be really determined.
Yes. Almost neurotic, if you will.
Yeah.
Let's see. Rachel says, is there any way to kill strawberries in our lawn that won't hurt our little dog that goes out daily? So I think we're talking about those tiny little, what's that weed that you identified a couple weeks ago on a show? The one that false strawberries, is that what it's called?
Oh, I wasn't the one that identified that.
Oh, okay. I thought that was the show you were on.
But probably a broadleaf weed killer would be what you would need. And generally you'd have to follow the label directions, but generally it'll say like keep kids and pets off of it until it's dry. If you do a liquid application. And you don't necessarily have to spray it over your whole yard, just spray it on the problem areas.
Okay. And do you need to be careful with everything surrounding? Like, is it going to harm the grass or?
If it's a broadleaf weed killer, if I'm guessing correctly, that it has to say that it will kill that weed on the label, but it shouldn't kill grass. It should only kill broadleaves, so things with wider leaves. You definitely should make sure it doesn't get on your flower beds. I've encountered people that have thought that was a good idea, and they end up killing their whole flower bed off.
Thanks. Okay. Larry wants to know if it is okay to divide hostas now.
I had this question from a friend earlier this week. I would say go for it, especially if they can be harder to manage later as they get bigger.
Mhm.
If you can tell where they're growing, I can only tell where a couple of mine are right now, and it wouldn't hurt to dig them up and divide them up right now. As
Okay.
long as you can tell what you're digging. If they haven't made any sort of appearance, I would wait until you can kind of see what you're doing.
I have one tiny little piece that's above the ground right now. I can't see any of the rest of them.
I
So
only have one that I can really see. I mean, hostas are generally pretty forgiving unless you're growing some super fancy, expensive kind, because those are the ones that you kill, right?
yeah, the fickle
Otherwise,
ones. Yeah. The one that cost you an arm and a leg.
absolutely. Those are the ones that the squirrels go after or the rabbits.
Yes. Yes.
I
Yes.
had
Yes.
some that I ended up transplanting in like June because they just got so big so fast. And just to give you an idea how big they were, it took 3 adults to move the plant once we dug it up. It was just
Oh my
so,
gosh.
yeah, they were monstrous. And I divided them, each one I divided into about 10 starts. And we planted them out and everything died. All the leaves died back, but then they resprouted and everything was bigger than ever,
Oh
3 years.
wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, hostas are one of those things that unless you're going to plant it upside down, they generally find a way to survive. At least that in my experience. I am not a fancy hosta grower at all.
Yeah. I like them. Ella, she brought some from her place last time she was on the show and gave me a little baggie of seeds, and I followed all of her directions. I put them in a little plastic bowl with the lid, and I've got probably 40 or 50 in that bowl, different colors. And so we'll see how they do. I mean, not all of them are going to make it, but we'll see how good they do, and hopefully I'll be able to plant a few of them out.
Cool. Yeah, you may have like the next great thing.
Yeah. You never know. You
Mhm.
never know. Okay, I don't see any other questions coming in. Folks, we're going to wrap up here in just a couple minutes. So if you have one more question you'd like to ask Jen, we are here for about another minute or so. Let's see. Oh, John Bodensteiner is watching. He says, keep 4 to 7 eyes minimum per division, but now is a great time to divide. And what better person, right?
We got the blessing. We got the official blessing.
That is the official blessing. Hostas are his jam. I think, I called him a Hostafarian. I made a mom joke. I know. I was like so corny. I laughed at it myself.
I say, didn't he bring that big encyclopedia to the
He
show?
did, the Hostapedia. Yeah. Yeah. So thank you, John, for chiming in. So, okay. Well, this was fun. It's already been 30 minutes. That was pretty awesome. So, clear your schedule, Jen, because I have a feeling we'll be calling you more to do some of these while we're stuck at home. And this will give everyone a chance to get their questions ready next time. It's going to be like a speed round, right?
Hey, that's fine. I can
Okay, awesome.
talk plants all night.
And I tell them where they can find you, because you've got your own, blog and scene and
Mhm.
that kind of thing. So tell them where they can find you other than Mid-American Gardener.
You can find me on groundedandgrowing.com, and I've been doing little live videos on the Grounded and Growing Facebook page not every afternoon, most afternoons at 1 o'clock. You can go and look up past videos, and we just walk around my yard and talk about what we're doing out in the yard, or we've taken our show on the road to the outskirts of my neighborhood, and we talked about some invasive species and stuff that I found out there. My kids play a starring role in it, so you get to hear my mom's voice from time to time. But it's reality when we're in the stay-at-home order. So hopefully people can appreciate they're not alone trying to manage everything.
Yes. And, we have to give ourselves some grace here because we're living in some pretty extraordinary times right now.
Yeah, yeah.
So, well, thank you so much, Jen. I really appreciate your time. And thank Andrew for sharing his mommy with us. He did a great job. My husband and kids are in the back. I told him, I was like, nobody come out until I give you the all clear because I just don't trust him.
Yeah, I guess I made the mistake of trusting, but now he doesn't want to be on the camera.
Of course not, because he's welcome now, right? It's not fun anymore.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
Well, thank everyone who watched. Thanks everyone for sending in your questions, and keep an eye on our Facebook page. We're going to try to do these from time to time. And I'm going to try to hurry up and get done before my dog starts barking. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Good night.